treat. The folks at Days Inn understand. That's why kids 12 and under stay scot-free, so parents can enjoy a comfortable stay with the family without getting soaked when they check out. At over 1,300 Days Inn worldwide, you'll find the best value under the sun.
Tonight, it may be psychedelic, but one Israeli therapy is putting some children in touch and a chance to strut their stuff and toot their own horn. On CNN World Report, midnight Eastern tonight.
City boy. Worst case of drive-alone commuter burnout I ever saw.
Didn't he know about carpooling?
Guess not.
Did he try the bus?
Nope.
Telecommuting?
Nope.
Changing work hours? Van pooling?
No.
Bicycle? Poor guy. Any one of them just once a week could have prevented this.
By nature, cats are choosy. Some even choose their owners. But Iams knows cats depend on people to give them what they need. More meat. Cats crave its taste. Meat is so important for eyes, muscle tone, skin and coat, and energy. And since there's more meat-based protein in Iams than the leading dry cat food, your cat will love it. So choose Iams, and your cat will be glad he chose you. Because more meat matters, insist on Iams.
This is CNN.
Hello, I'm Joe Oliver at CNN Center in Atlanta. Weekend Review continues after these stories. President Clinton brought promises of federal aid to flood-damaged towns along the Mississippi River. Flying into the region, the president saw the high waters in Illinois, Missouri, and Iowa. He also has gotten a tour of one soggy Iowa farm. The town of Davenport has suffered the most extensive damage, estimated at $100 million. Parts of Hannibal, Missouri are also underwater. A levee has limited flood damage to downtown, but rain expected in the Mississippi River Valley could test the flood control system. There has been an explosion at a South Korean hotel where President Clinton is scheduled to stay next weekend. A boiler malfunction is being blamed for the blast that rocked the hotel in Seoul. 3 hotel workers suffered minor injuries. Mr. Clinton plans to visit South Korea after the G7 economic summit ends in Tokyo. Investigators in Cleveland, Ohio say arson is the cause of one of the worst fires in the city's history. The blaze broke out before dawn today at the site of a former factory. It injured 2 firefighters and damaged or destroyed 15 buildings. The fire has been brought under control but continues to smolder. A blimp on a nationwide maiden voyage crashed in New York City today. The 160-foot aircraft suddenly nosed down and then draped itself over an apartment building. The pilot and co-pilot escaped with only minor injuries. A police officer who saw the incident said the blimp deflated like a big pancake. The blimp was promoting Pizza Hut. Americans this 4th of July put on a major birthday bash for their country, everything from fireworks to a reminder of the past. In the nation's capital, a fife and drum corps added to the pomp and pageantry at 4th of July festivities outside the National Archives. In Atlanta, sweating was the thing to do this Independence Day. An estimated 45,000 runners braved the heat to compete in the annual Peachtree Road Race. By midday, temperatures had soared into the 90s in the Georgia capital. On the West Coast, holiday revelers were treated to what's billed as the largest Independence Day parade west of the Mississippi River. More than 300,000 spectators were expected for the parade in Huntington Beach, California. I'm Joe Oliver at CNN Center in Atlanta. We'll have more news at the top of the hour. Now back to Week in Review.
Welcome back to Week in Review. Iraq still denies it had anything to do with the assassination plot against former U.S. President George Bush. And the Iraqi government promises it will not retaliate for last weekend's U.S. missile attack on Baghdad.
It could have been a scene out of the Gulf War, but this strike on Baghdad was singular and meant to be precise.
First of all, we damaged their major intelligence facility quite severely. Secondly, we made it absolutely clear that we will not tolerate acts of terrorism or other illegal and dangerous acts. I think it's a very important message.
Mr. Clinton said he ordered the strike on Iraq's intelligence complex only after seeing strong evidence the Iraqi government was behind an alleged plot to assassinate former President Bush. Bush, who was vacationing at his home in Maine, was informed of the U.S. strike as it was happening by Secretary of State Warren Christopher.
He was very supportive. One of the things I remember most strikingly about it was I explained to him the size of the bomb that Saddam Hussein had intended for him. A car bomb big enough to wipe out 4 square blocks. He was mighty impressed by that.
In all, at least 6 Iraqi civilians are believed to have died in the cruise missile attack. The Iraqi government, which has claimed no involvement in any attempt to kill former President Bush, soundly condemned the U.S. strike.
It is an act of aggression which shows that one of the considerations underlying the American position is perhaps the achievement of an alleged victory which could be used for domestic and external political ends.
In fact, the short-term impact of the missile strike did appear to include a bit of domestic political victory for Mr. Clinton. His much-talked-about approval rating took a turn for the better this week. His rating with the U.S. military may have also benefited.
I think it puts him up many notches as leader of the free world. I hope that the military now starts respecting that more. I think there has been a problem in the past that the military has forgotten that there is civilian control, and some of the leaders have kind of winked at different leaders saying all sorts of things about the President of the United States, and I find that wrong.
The U.S. took its case to the United Nations, where it presented detailed evidence to support its claim Iraq was behind the failed attempt on Bush's life. The U.S. claimed justification for its strike on Baghdad under Article 51 of the UN Charter, providing each country with a right to self-defense. For the most part, U.S. allies stood behind the U.S. response.
This operation was a justified and proportionate exercise of the right of self-defense and a necessary warning to Iran.
We think that the action is justified as long as the United States exercise and involve their right to self-defense.
But many Islamic nations, some of whom stood with the U.S. against Iraq during the Gulf War, condemned the U.S. action. Many Muslims, even in the U.S., believe Washington exercises a double standard regarding their faith.
Whatever happens in the Muslim world and whatever we don't like in the Muslim world, we go with a heavy-handed policy. And we don't help the masses. We help a few dictators around in the Arab world or the Muslim world. If this would have happened by anybody else but Saddam Hussein, we wouldn't have done this heavy-handed policy.
Tuesday brought yet another confrontation. The U.S. says an Iraqi anti-aircraft artillery site targeted a U.S. plane on routine patrol in southern Iraq. The U.S. fighter jet fired a missile at the battery. Iraq claims one Iraqi soldier was wounded in the confrontation. The new administration in Washington appeared bent on sending the same hardline signal to Baghdad as its predecessors.
The suffering inside Iraq can come to an end when Saddam's regime is replaced. And I hope, and most of the world community hopes, that this regime based on terrorism and atrocities against his own people will be replaced. Over time, we hope to achieve that result.
For Week in Review, I'm Jean Meserve.
Taking a closer look now at terrorism and its targets, There was a time when Americans felt their isolated geographic position protected them from terrorist plots. Not anymore.
The World Trade Center. The Holland and Lincoln Tunnels, the George Washington Bridge. And a former president of the United States. All have been recent terrorist targets. All bring home the reality of terrorism to Americans, that they could be targets. 6 people died and 1,000 others were injured in the World Trade Center blast last February. Within weeks, authorities rounded up more than a half dozen suspects in connection with the blast, linked but never charged Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman. This week, immigration officials decided to detain the blind cleric, charging he entered the U.S. under false pretenses 2 years ago. They were foiled in their first attempt to bring him into custody when a man, dressed as the sheikh, left the mosque where the sheikh was believed hiding.
We told you from the very beginning, the man is not in here. We just want you out of here. All right, you've been giving us a very bad reputation. You've been bothering us since this afternoon, and we want you to get out of here. This is a place to pray.
The sheikh is not being charged in connection with the World Trade Center bombing or even wider alleged terrorist plots uncovered last week. 9 people, some of them linked to the sheikh, have been arrested in connection with that plot. They're accused of targeting the United Nations, a bridge and tunnels in New York City, and plotting to assassinate several political figures, among them New York Senator Alphonse D'Amato, an ardent supporter of Israel.
I think we should have arrested Rahman. I think he should be deported. And I think that if you're going to use terrorist activities that result in the death of people, that the death penalty should be applicable.
Authorities say they foiled the terrorist plot and made the arrests thanks to an informant, another follower of the sheikh. U.S. authorities have been making an effort to deport Sheikh Rahman, a process that could literally take years. In the meantime, in an address to his followers Friday before being taken into custody, the sheikh urged the continued fight against the West, saying, God is stronger than America and the Western world. He accused the West, as he repeatedly has, of trying to destroy Muslims in Iraq, Bosnia, Algeria, and Egypt.
America is going to be held accountable before the whole world for the covering up for the Mubarak regime.
I think that President Clinton had to respond to the clear evidence of an assassination plot against George Bush. He had to respond, and particularly because there's rising terrorism in the world targeting the United States. And I think this message is designed not simply to communicate to Saddam Hussein, but also to the other terrorist states.
That response, in the form of last week's cruise missile attack on Baghdad, was widely applauded on Capitol Hill and around the world. President Clinton said he ordered the action after receiving convincing proof the Iraqi government was behind a plot to assassinate former President Bush. The U.S. says plotters plan to explode a powerful bomb when Bush visited Kuwait earlier this year. Kuwait is trying more than a dozen suspects in connection with the plot. The former president first avoided the media, issuing a statement through his former national security advisor, and he still doesn't want to talk about it.
I don't have to answer. I used to have to answer. 30 years I did that, in and out, press conferences, and have big confrontations on talk shows, and now I don't do that anymore. I'm really trying to set an example that you can be president and then go back and lead a normal life, and I hope you'll understand.
Another target of the plotters, Desert Storm Commander, retired General Norman Schwarzkopf.
Obviously, we'll do what we need to do to protect General Schwarzkopf. He'll receive all the appropriate security. But it would be very unwise for any terrorist or any state terrorist to consider something like that, because that will be responded to.
Earlier in the week, the State Department issued a travel advisory to all Americans planning summer vacations. Americans were urged not to change their plans, but to exercise more caution than usual. Among the suggestions, don't accept luggage or packages from strangers, and don't go to places where you think there's some specific danger.
It's not any effort at all to create more concern than is warranted, but I think every American who's watched the news of the last couple of days understands that there's a very real threat posed by terrorist activities around the world, And we certainly, because of the arrests in New York, know that sometimes that danger crosses waters and comes here home to the United States.
We've gone from the Cold War to this hot peace. And what we see is a certain part of the world having all sorts of frustrations and anger about a whole range of things. I'm not sure that they're really connected because we have not found a state-supported part of that terrorism in New Jersey and New York. But if we find it, we must respond because that only makes them more effective.
What Americans are learning about this hot peace may be a bitter reality. Terrorism, in all its ugliness, has made it to U.S. shores. For Week in Review, I'm Chuck Roberts.
The wine glass test has been a little overdone. So has the ball bearing test. But in real life, what counts is the corkscrew test. Thread the needle test. Hairpin and stop on a dime tests. The new BMW 5 Series V8s, their sense of the road, reduces the competition to senseless luxury.
St. Croix sounds great. See your travel agent or call us.
Dear Midas, my daughter and I were in Savannah, and the cobblestones were more than our muffler could take. At Midas, your mechanic...
Hi, I'm Jack Willis.
...gave us a free inspection, allowed us a first...
Look at this.
...to look at what was wrong, and did a better than good job. It was a good feeling to have a guarantee following us back to Indiana.
And it was nice to feel we had not been taken.
Sincerely,
Annie and Nicole Weiland.
High unemployment, sluggish world growth, crucial issues facing world leaders when the economic summit in Japan begins on Wednesday. Watch for live reports and updates from Bernard Shaw and Bill Hartley. And stay with CNN for complete coverage of the summit starting Monday.
UN Ambassador Madeleine Albright visited Somalia's capital city on Saturday. Her visit came one day after 3 Italian soldiers were killed and 30 others wounded. The soldiers were ambushed while searching a compound for weapons, said to belong to warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid. Aidid remains at large, although UN peacekeepers have made it clear he is a wanted man. South Africa moved a step closer to democracy this week. The country's major political parties officially set April 27th as the date for elections to end white minority rule. The democracy negotiators also agreed to form a transitional coalition council, giving black parties a say in the government leading up to the vote. Several of the 26 parties, including the Inkatha-based Freedom Party, opposed confirming the election date. Some dissenters even stalked out of the meeting on Friday, but Inkatha leaders say their party will not withdraw from future democracy negotiations.
Here's straight answers to questions about your hearing.
Sure, I ask people to repeat themselves.
A lot.
Does that mean I have a hearing problem?
Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. One way to find out is to take Beltone's free 10-step hearing test. Beltone's 10-step test will tell you what you're hearing and what you're not. If your test shows you don't need hearing help, we'll be the first to tell you. You'll even hear for yourself how a hearing aid could help you. Plus, when you're finished, we'll give you a copy of your test results to take home.
If you have questions about our free hearing evaluation, the choice is clear. Get the answers in Beltone's Guide to Better Hearing. It's free if you call this toll-free number now.
I love going out and having a good time, but sometimes all the noise makes it hard to hear what people are saying.
When you visit a Beltone center, we'll help you choose from over 60 different models of advanced Beltone hearing aids, like Clear Voice, custom-made to suit your individual hearing loss and lifestyle. In this noisy world, millions of Americans struggle to hear voices clearly. At Beltone, you'll deal with true professionals who really care about helping you enjoy the world around you more.
Want to know more about Beltone's products? The choice is clear. Get the answers by calling for your free guide to better hearing now.
I know I need a hearing aid, but I don't want to wear one of those big clunky things. Don't you have something I can wear that isn't so obvious?
Beltone's in-the-canal hearing aids are tiny. Some are no bigger around than a contact lens. See? They're almost invisible. Most people only notice how much better you're hearing. If you want straight answers about your hearing, the choice is clear. Beltone.
Call 1-800-652-9200 now and get straight answers to your hearing questions in Beltone's Guide to Better Hearing. It's free. Call now and you'll also get this free hearing test coupon. Call today, 1-800-652-9200. That's 1-800-652-9200.
Patriotic images come to mind on this July 4th. Photographer Eric Williams has wrapped himself in the American flag for the past 2 years. His goal, to capture unique images of Old Glory. Williams displays his photographs by using lasers to transfer the images to white linen cloth. Patriotic Georgians can be seen at the Expressions Gallery in Atlanta through August 1st.
He loved baseball. He just loved it. He coined a phrase that still stands today. He said, you've got to have a lot of little boy in you to play this game of baseball.
Dear Midas, my daughter and I were in Savannah, and the cobblestones were more than our muffler could take. At Midas, your mechanic...
Hi, I'm Jack Willis.
...gave us a free inspection, allowed us a first...
Look at this.
...to look at what was wrong, and did a better than good job. It was a good feeling to have a guarantee following us back to Indiana.
And it was nice to feel we had not been taken.
Sincerely,
Annie and Nicole Weiland.
I know what I like and don't like. I don't like irregularity. It slows me down. I don't like harsh chemical laxatives. I like natural. Like new, smooth texture, regular flavored Metamucil. It's the only natural fiber with no sweeteners, no added flavors, as well as no grit. I don't like those. So it's easy to take, easy to get the extra fiber I need, and it works just the way I expect from Metamucil, to get the body up and running. I like that.
Metamucil, the natural choice for regularity.
One day of television that will change the way you look at your world. Come face to face with nature's most awesome creatures. The Trials of Life, coming Sunday, July 11th, only on TBS.
We said goodbye this week to several familiar faces. George McFarland, the actor who played Spanky on TV in The Little Rascals, died Wednesday at the age of 64. McFarland landed the role in Our Gang when he was just 3 years old. He says it was years before he realized all kids weren't in the movies. Actor Fred Gwynne played many character roles during his career, but he was best known for his work as bumbling officer Francis Muldoon in Car 54, Where Are You? And the sweet, ghoulish Herman Munster in The Munsters. Gwynne died Friday after a long battle with pancreatic cancer at age 66. And former Dodger Don Drysdale died of a heart attack late Saturday. The Hall of Famer was 56. Drysdale was the second former Dodger to die recently. Last Saturday, Roy Campanella, catcher for the Brooklyn Dodgers during the 50s, died. He was buried Wednesday, as Ann McDermott reports.
The legends, the unknowns, they all came to honor a man who was a baseball player, a great baseball player, but Roy Campanella was so much more. Just listen to one of the men he played with, who spoke at the private funeral service, one of the men he played with in the old Negro leagues back when they were boys.
There are times in our lives when we meet people who just shake your hand, and you know that that's a promise of better times.
And it wasn't long before Campanella followed Jackie Robinson, leaping over the color barrier into Ebbets Field, into immortality as one of the boys of summer. Eventually, others would take their places, but they too would remember Roy Campanella. Steve Garvey says he'll never forget the time his dad took him to see the great catcher when he was just 7 years old.
And as they went by, Roy Campanella patted me on the top of the head and looked over to my dad and he said, "Joe, is this your son?" And my dad said, "Yes." He says, "Looks like he's going to be a ball player one day."
Dodger manager Tom Lasorda talked of Campanella's love for life and love for the game he played so well.
He loved baseball. He just loved it. He coined a phrase that still stands today. He said, "You've got to have a lot of little boy in you to play this game of baseball."
Then came the 1958 car accident that left Campanella paralyzed. But Dodger announcer Vin Scully remembers how the tragedy did not defeat the man.
Roy's wheelchair was not a cross. It was much more like a throne, because his courage, his perseverance, his will to live provided inspiration to millions and made a much greater impact than he could ever have made as a player.
Everyone at the funeral talked of Campanella's courage and Campanella's kindnesses, how he spoke up for the handicapped, and how he continued to coach with encouraging words and deeds that will likely live on in memories long after the games have been forgotten. Ann McDermott, CNN, Los Angeles.
Thank you for joining us for this Week in Review. I'm Susan Rook. Hope you enjoy your 4th of July. See you next week.
Hello, I'm Joe Oliver at the CNN Center in Atlanta. Firefighters in Cleveland, Ohio are working on the smoldering remains of what's reported to be one of the worst fires in the city's history. The fire broke out at a former factory site and torched 15 buildings before it was contained. More than 200 firefighters were involved at the scene through the day. 2 were treated for heat exhaustion. Investigators say the fire was caused by arson and are pursuing several leads. Some of the other stories just ahead on World News. Welcome to Flood Central. Heavy rains are making for even harder times along the mighty Mississippi. Happy birthday to the U.S. of A. Fireworks light up the sky from coast to coast this 4th of July. We'll check in on some of the nation's biggest parties. Bigfoot battles a Manhattan apartment building and loses. A Pizza Hut promotional tool takes a nosedive into New York. And what's in the salad? Some soon-to-be mothers say it's magic, designed to drive their little ones out of the womb. All that and more on World News in a moment. Stay with us.
We'd like to thank the people of the Northwest. Because you've made recycling so important, you've helped make us one of America's largest paper recyclers and help conserve one of our most precious natural resources. We've recycled a lot already, and by 1996 we plan to do twice as much. So, thanks. We couldn't have done it without you. Weyerhaeuser.
When you think of cellular phones, think of Smith's Home Furnishings, an authorized dealer of Cellular One service. Smith's not only sells the most cellular phones in Oregon, but offers the best customer service. Whether you want a portable, mobile, or transportable phone, Smith's trained experts can show you all the top names, including Motorola, Mitsubishi, GE, Diamondtel, and more. And because it's Smith's, you'll get low prices too. So remember, when you think of cellular phones, think Smith's Home Furnishings.
How do you define value? Is it just a great price? Or does value mean getting a truck with the best mileage, the best exterior corrosion protection, the best resale value, and more standard horsepower than Ford? That's the way Chevrolet defines a rock-solid value. And right now, there's no finer example than the Chevy CK. See your local Northwest Chevrolet dealer soon.
You'll find a variety of magnificent Italian food at Giuseppe's restaurant. Whether you're hungry for lasagna, chicken parmigiana combination, chicken marsala, or your other favorite Italian dishes, you'll love the authentic food and large portions at Giuseppe's.
But, miss, we ordered a small.
But, sir, this is our small.
Eat in our dining room or take it home. For magnificent Italian food, come to Giuseppe's on Southeast Stark in Gresham.
This is CNN.
The president pays a visit to the waterlogged Midwest to inspect damage caused by still rising floodwaters.
And a blimp named Bigfoot makes a dramatic descent into Midtown Manhattan.
A late update of the day's news. This is World News on CNN with Gene Meserve in Washington and Joe Oliver at CNN Center in Atlanta.
Thank you for joining us. A few jangled nerves at the White House tonight following an explosion at a South Korean hotel where the president is scheduled to stay next weekend. Hotel officials are blaming a faulty boiler for the explosion at the Hyatt Hotel in Seoul. Members of Mr. Clinton's advance team are staying at the hotel. They were not injured in the blast, but 3 floors were damaged in the explosion. White House officials say there is no evidence of an explosive device, and they say the blast probably will not affect Mr. Clinton's trip. President Clinton got a bird's eye view of the drenched farmlands of the Midwest as he flew into Davenport, Iowa this evening. Once on the ground, the president visited the communities half underwater. He crossed a bridge over the flooded Mississippi River and visited a water-soaked farm. As he looked over the submerged town of Davenport, Mr. Clinton declared, quote, "It's bad." President Clinton says he'll provide nearly $400 million in aid to Midwestern farmers hurt by the flooding.
Iowa apparently isn't the only state in need of disaster aid. Downstream in Illinois and Missouri, the river is still rising in most areas, and forecasters say more rain upstream could prolong flooding for weeks. CNN's Jeff Flock reports from a boat on the streets of Hannibal.
Sunrise on what Twain called a monstrous big river. There is beauty in the lapping waters of the Mississippi and its mirror to Illinois and Missouri and beyond. But in the water's reflection today, pictures of disaster in Mark Twain's hometown.
It bothers you. These are people's homes, and, you know, you feel for them because you know what they're going through.
Floating down Sycamore Street in Hannibal, Missouri, you can already see the damage. The river crested once here at 28 feet, and there is concern that there could be another crest which could bring them even more trouble.
If it comes up slowly, we're all right. What scares us now is if we have a heavy downpour on a local tributary, the water has no place to go, and it could flush a lot of the houses out that are still dry.
They are plenty dry behind the levee that is now saving most of Hannibal. Unlike their neighbors to the north in Davenport, Iowa, Hannibal bit the bullet and bought the $8 million dike that is holding back the floodwaters of the Mississippi. It was finished just this year amid much opposition.
I'm for it now.
The nice part is to stand on top of that levee and know we can still function, and Hannibal isn't as bad as it could have been.
Push it!
As bad as it could have been would have washed out the annual Tom Sawyer Day celebration, including the traditional mud volleyball championship, which seems all the more appropriate this year.
I think it's a day of celebration for all of us. We should appreciate what we have.
like life, some clinging to it more precariously than others. For many, though, Independence Day 1993 will more mark what's been lost to that monstrous big river that is stretching its banks much as it did when Mark Twain first wrote about it more than 100 years ago. I'm Jeff Block, CNN, in Hannibal, Missouri.
As we had mentioned, there is more rain in the forecast. Here's Ted Texter with the flood forecast.
Joe, let me show you just exactly what's going on now. This is regional radar. We center our radar concentration on St. Louis and look out about 500 miles in every direction. You can see a big line of storms now, all the way from central Kansas north and eastward, all the way on up to Lake Michigan. The Mississippi River, right here, of course, dividing Missouri and Illinois. And look back westward now. The storms have not progressed to the east very rapidly through this nighttime, but they have persisted. The rain has persisted. That is not good news because we're getting more rainfall in the upper Mississippi River Valley. And remember now, along the river is the drainage basin, so it'll take a little while, but this rain will finally make it into the river, into the tributaries as well. Notice, too, the Missouri River, it pretty well follows I-70 from Kansas City on across to St. Louis. The Missouri River, in a lot of cases, is closed to barge traffic because of high water there, too, so flooding is a problem there also. Also, the threat of severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, these watch boxes still in effect back across northwest Missouri into Kansas. That's another threat that this storm system poses for us. We'll show you just where it's going, how fast, in just a little bit. We'll look at the whole country's weather. Jean?
Thanks, Ted. It was supposed to be the maiden nationwide voyage of a blimp advertising Pizza Hut. But that voyage ended abruptly today when the blimp, as one witness described it, deflated just like a giant pancake when it crashed in Midtown Manhattan. CNN's Gary Tuckman reports.
Even by the standards of New York City, it was a most unusual sight. Much of what remained of a 160-foot-long blimp was draped along the side of a 7-story apartment building. The rest of the Pizza Hut blimp, including the gondola where people ride, was on the roof. A pilot and co-pilot were the only people aboard. Their injuries not believed to be life-threatening.
They remained alert. They tried to get out almost immediately. They opened up the door on their own power.
A man with a home video camera captured the last moments of the flight of the blimp. It was obviously laboring, with a large hole gaping from its side. The crew already had radioed a mayday, knowing the blimp was about to crash. There were many eyewitnesses.
I saw the blimp coming towards us over the river very quickly sideways. That looked strange to me. Then I thought maybe it was just setting up for the fireworks. Then I saw it start to dip, noticed like a lot of commotion, and then it dipped severely and started turning.
After it hit the roof, emergency workers rushed to the scene. New York police officer Keith Allison was one of the first ones there.
The two pilots were laying right outside the gondola. There was jet fuel leaking from them about approximately 5-6 feet away. The pilot told me, he said, reach in, you got to hit the cutoff switch for the engine. We got that, and we picked the two guys up with EMS from St. Clair's were there, and we pulled them off the roof.
Authorities say they received reports gunshots were fired at the blimp. While that's being investigated, they have determined there were structural problems in its tail. All on hand were greatly relieved that the crash of this Pizza Hut blimp wasn't more serious.
This is a hell of a way for them to get advertising.
The blimp was flying over New York to participate in July 4th celebrations, and the two-member blimp crew is celebrating. But what they're celebrating is the fact that they're alive. Gary Tuckman, CNN, New York.
As the sun sets on this Independence Day, skies across the country are lighting up with some dazzling displays. Fireworks replace filibusters on Capitol Hill tonight. An enormous crowd gathered outside the U.S. Capitol to glimpse the glittery show. In Manhattan, the famous skyline is also getting some extra illumination. And here's a live look at the festivities in Boston. Lots of oohs and ahs in Beantown tonight. We'll have more on the snap, crackle, and pop of a festive 4th a little later in the hour. Jean?
Just ahead on World News, President Clinton's 4th of July celebration, sharing America's birthday with leaders of an emerging democracy. At 30 past, bases closing, the Yankees start going home, but their withdrawal is affecting the big German economic picture. And at 55 past, the newest rage from La La Land, a salad with labor powers. Stay with us.
Now's the time to plan your family's summer fun. Because when you book with Days Inn a month in advance, you'll enjoy savings of 20 to 60%. Just call and ask for our super summer rates. You'll find they're the best value under the sun.
I really didn't want my husband to color his gray hair.
But then I discovered this, the hair coloring called Just for Men.
And now he looks better than ever.
Simply apply Just for Men, and in 5 minutes, rinse. Just for Men blends away the gray for a totally natural look. No wonder 8 out of 10 women prefer the Just for Men look to the gray look.
It's like you took off 10 years.
And in just 5 minutes.
Just for Men. She'll love the way you look.
Blue blocker sunglasses. They're really different.
My name is Geek. I put them on as a shocker. Man, I love these blue blockers. Everything is clear. They block out the sun. Oh, yeah, I got to get me some.
It's not like 3D, but it's got that effect where everything is so separated.
They're great. Best sunglasses I ever owned. I've been telling everyone I know about these. Honest to goodness.
It's different. I've never seen anything like these.
I thought it was a gimmick. When I see it on TV at night, it's not. It's real. They actually work.
The original blue blocker sunglasses block 100% of the ultraviolet and blue light, have lightweight nylon frames, carrying case, and lifetime limited warranty. Clip-ons available for prescription wearers. Was $49.95, now only $19.95. Except no substitutes. Order now.
We really all have to watch out for the ultraviolet rays and the damage done to our eyes, and so it's really an investment in protecting your eyes.
So there you have it, folks, out there in TV land. Get you some glasses that's sweeping the land. Remember what I said, now I'm a hip-hopper, yeah. Go get you some blue blockers.
Headline News, the only network with up-to-date business and market reports at 15 and 45 minutes past the hour, around the clock. Headline News, a whole day's news every half hour. Check cable listings for channel numbers.
President Clinton started his day where it all began, in Philadelphia. But Independence Day wasn't all fun and fireworks for the president. He spent his 4th of July working for democracy in South Africa, as CNN's John Holloman explains.
There's no more patriotic spot for the 4th of July than Independence Hall in Philadelphia. And what president can come here without taking advantage of the rare chance to ring the Liberty Bell? The president shook hundreds of hands as he participated in traditional 4th of July events. But for Bill Clinton, America's Independence Day was a day to work for independence somewhere else, the independence and democracy for South Africa's blacks. Mr. Clinton is excited about the prospect of all-race elections to end 350 years of white rule in South Africa and about the end to economic sanctions against the de Klerk government.
The United States today reaches out a helping hand to those who would build democracy in South Africa. We stand ready to help with voter education. We stand ready to help to heal the cruel legacies of apartheid, from unemployment to poor housing to inadequate education. We want to be your partner. And this week, when I travel to the summit of the world's leading industrial nations, I will work to include a new and democratic South Africa in the world economy and our common commitment to it.
19 of the 26 groups involved in the democracy talks in South Africa agreed Friday to support elections on April 27th next year. Right-wing groups and the Inkatha Freedom Party have not yet approved that date. In Philadelphia, about 300 protesters complained that South African President F.W. de Klerk was being honored along with Nelson Mandela. The two South African leaders are former enemies, now working to end decades of racial segregation. Philadelphia officials awarded them the Liberty Medal.
We intend to succeed, as your forefathers did, in bringing forth a Constitution and a Bill of Rights which can ensure liberty, justice, and security for all our people.
You, the peoples of the United States of America and of the world, stood with us as we fought for our political emancipation. We urge you to stay the course.
The international sanctions against South Africa won't be lifted anytime soon. Officials say not only will the April elections have to be held, they'll have to be fair for the world to resume trade and even government assistance to the nation that's home to both Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk. John Holloman, CNN, Philadelphia.
Secretary of State Warren Christopher says it will probably take less than 1,000 U.S. observers to monitor a new agreement to restore democracy to Haiti. Last night, ousted President Jean-Bertrand Aristide and the man who overthrew him agreed to a plan for returning Mr. Aristide to power. President Clinton today said he was enthusiastic about the development.
I have nothing but kudos for the UN, the OAS, and the American ambassador. And I was, actually, I couldn't go to sleep last night until I found out that President Aristide had signed. I was in touch with our people, so we worked very, very hard on that. Practically, how long do you think we need to run? We're running late. Well, 4 months. He's supposed to be back in office in 4 months. We are very committed to implementing that agreement. We pushed hard for it, and we're committed to it. It's a big issue.
The plan agreed upon last night calls for Mr. Aristide to be back in power October 30th. President Clinton also congratulated General Raul Cedras for signing the agreement. He led the overthrow in 1991. Egypt wants the United States to extradite the Muslim cleric Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman to put him on trial in Cairo. He is now in federal custody facing immigration charges. As Kathleen Koch reports, the extradition process could take years.
Egyptian authorities say Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman and his followers tried to murder 2 policemen and incite violence during a 1989 protest in Egypt.
There is a court order to arrest him. Therefore, based on legal grounds, we have requested the extradition.
The U.S. ambassador to Egypt accepted the request, forwarding it to Washington.
That will begin the extradition proceedings. Whether he ultimately will be extradited depends upon the legal processes here, but we'll certainly be processing that request in the routine way.
That could take years. The Sheikh is already facing deportation for allegedly violating U.S. immigration laws. Neither the deportation nor the extradition can take place until the other proceeding is settled or dropped.
They can both be long and somewhat involved. Extradition and deportation proceed on a parallel track. Both can take years.
At least 12 of Abdel Rahman's followers have been arrested in connection with the World Trade Center bombing and an alleged plot to kill politicians and blow up the United Nations. The Sheikh has said he does not condone the violence. His lawyer complains about how the Sheikh has been treated since being held at a federal prison.
He's been stripped naked. He's been denied the right to have the meals that are necessary for purposes of his medical condition, diabetes. The food there is quite bad. There's poor circulation there, which affects his asthma condition.
Egypt had been reluctant to seek the Sheikh's extradition for fear any trial would make him a hero or a martyr. So security experts say this is an important shift that the United States should support.
If they want him, we certainly should send him back. It will cause some problems in Egypt, but I don't think there's any easy way to deal with terrorism, and firmness, I think, is the best way.
But since investigators privately believe Abdel Rahman is tied to the U.S. terrorist attacks, some want authorities to wait.
Before we just turn him over right quick, I think we need to know exactly what he's been involved in here in the United States. Our legal system has some claims, too.
The U.S. could postpone extradition if criminal charges are brought against the Sheikh in New York. But if he is extradited to Egypt and found guilty, Abdel Rahman could be sentenced to death. Kathleen Koch for CNN, Washington.
Oregon's Governor Barbara Roberts is in the hospital after suffering chest pains. The hospital in Medford, Oregon says she has minor blockage in 2 arteries that will be treated with medication. The hospital says the 56-year-old governor has no heart damage and could be released as early as tomorrow. Roberts, a Democrat, was admitted yesterday to a hospital in Ashland, Oregon, and was transferred. For many U.S. entrepreneurs, doing business in Japan can be a scary proposition. When World News returns, our focal point looks at Japanese culture. It may be the key to making money overseas. Stay with us.
This simple outside says inside you'll find a lasting commitment to performance. The Intel 486DX2 processor, power for today's hottest software, and the Intel Pentium processor for the next generation of compatible power. That's Intel, the computer inside.
revolution is underway. 1-800-COLLECT. Now America's least expensive way to call someone collect. All across America, people are dialing it instead of zero to make the long-distance charges easier for their friends and family to accept. They've been given the choice. They're making the change. 1-800-COLLECT.
The following is for veterans and their spouses age 45 to 75.
You promise to love. You promise to honor. You promise to cherish. And maybe the most important promise of all, to protect and care for each other. That's a promise Veterans Life Insurance can help you keep.
Do you have enough life insurance? Call Veterans Life toll-free for free information about $1-a-week term life insurance, just for veterans and their spouses age 45 to 75. There's no medical exam, and your benefits never go down.
To love, to honor, to cherish all the days of your life.
Call 1-800-637-9500 to find out how to apply for $1-a-week life insurance from Veterans Life Insurance Company.
In our focal point tonight, this week's G7 summit in Japan. President Clinton will likely discuss Japan's trade surplus with the U.S. and will try to make inroads for American companies in Japan. But one American businessman already is successful in Japan, and CNN's Eileen O'Connor explains why.
Japanese culture, unique, yet parts are often adapted, even borrowed from other cultures. Perhaps that is part of the problem for many outsiders. So much of Japanese culture seems foreign, yet strangely familiar. Especially for businessmen. Japan has a stock market, hard workers, big companies, and lots of consumers. So why is it so hard to crack this market, they ask? Something must be wrong, they say. Not so, says Chuck Graft, an American entrepreneur who's lived in Japan for 8 years. He's built a very successful importing business. The secret, he says, is simple. When in Japan, do like the Japanese.
And you got to know how to make relationships or make friends in a Japanese context.
The Foreign Buyers Club, or FBC, is built on that kind of friendship. Chuck's friend is a Japanese official who helped the FBC maneuver through a legal loophole, importing private household goods unavailable to Westerners in Japan. The FBC works hard to abide by the rules, and customs officials appreciate that approach.
So if we could have succeeded in establishing good communication, good relationship with business society and the customs, I don't think it's any problem.
The FBC can get its customers just about anything they may miss from home.
On your order for August 6th, there's one discontinued item. It's the Whisk laundry detergent.
At U.S. prices plus the import duties, on some items, that works out much cheaper. Business is booming, but it didn't happen overnight.
It just takes patience. You know, we spent 2 years negotiating with customs and with all the people that we needed to do business with.
And the relationships are maintained. Dock workers share a meal, all important here, with their Japanese counterparts. It is attention to these local details that takes time, but brings success. People at FBC say it is this patience and perseverance learned in the local market that makes Japanese companies successful abroad.
They look at a problem for a long time. I mean, sometimes a really long time. When they're done working it over, they really know what to do, and so they go in and then they do that.
So does the FBC. They've gone from bi-monthly to weekly orders. Just one small step in beating the trade surplus, which Chuck says can be beaten.
The trade surplus is the result of two different systems. They're having difficulty figuring out how to work together.
Like the culture, the system may be different. But not insurmountable. Eileen O'Connor, CNN, Kobe, Japan.
This note, CNN will provide extensive coverage of the G7 summit beginning tomorrow night at 8 Eastern.
Focal Point is brought to you by Sprint. For the perfect 800 service, follow Sprint.
This is your life. This is your world. This is your chance. You gotta be there now.
Since Sprint is the only global phone company that offers everything, local, long distance, and cellular, it means with Sprint, no matter where you go, there you are.
You want a car that handles like a sports car, or one that handles 6 people comfortably? Do you want to feel the road, or do you want a smooth, comfortable ride? 214 horses, or dual airbags? Introducing a car that proves you can have everything, the Chrysler New Yorker. The American luxury car is now in the fast lane.
High unemployment, sluggish world growth, a proposed multi-billion-dollar aid package to Russia. These are some of the crucial issues facing world leaders when the economic summit in Japan begins on Wednesday. CNN special pre-summit coverage begins Monday on Prime News with Bernard Shaw live from Tokyo. Watch for live business reports with Bill Hartley and updates throughout the day. Stay with CNN for the most complete live coverage of the economic summit starting Monday on CNN.
For many of the people who have gone overseas with the Peace Corps, the experience has had a significant effect on their lives. Some are getting together to remember the experience and complete a new task. Rusty Dornan reports.
Victor Bazoufi is cleaning out backyards for the elderly in Berkeley, California. He first worked the land in the Peace Corps 20 years ago when he taught Peruvian farmers how to grow a new kind of rice. This week, Bazoufi and 1,200 other former Peace Corps volunteers joined in Berkeley for a reunion. But part of the party in this reunion is getting their hands dirty.
I enjoy it. I mean, it sort of renews that volunteer spirit that we all sort of had in the late 60s and early 70s.
Since 1961, when President Kennedy established the Peace Corps, 140,000 workers have volunteered in 85 countries. It may be 20 years later for some, but volunteers like Steve Lucas say the Corps gave them a gift that keeps them giving.
You know, here we had an adventurous time working overseas, helping people in other countries, and so this is a chance for us to give back to our own communities.
Along with community work and workshops, the reunion conference also features a job fair.
Some recently returning volunteers are finding that employers are not always enthusiastic about hiring someone who took a 2-year leave of absence in this job market to work overseas.
I have met some people who just cannot understand, think you're very strange, and will probably come back with some weird ideas that won't mesh with the workplace.
Margaret Bishop just returned from working in Mali and must now reestablish her career.
It's a little bit scary. It's hard to tell just what's changed since I've been gone.
But some say employers often see the Peace Corps experience as a plus. And besides, many of these volunteers face tougher difficulties overseas.
They never give up. They never lose hope.
Although the Peace Corps has had a low profile in recent years, President Clinton is now trying to revive the volunteer spirit through national service. For those here, volunteerism continues to be a way of life. Rusty Dornan for CNN, Berkeley, California.
We'll look at the hour's top stories when we come back.
Also ahead on World News, is there another confrontation with Iraq on the horizon? We'll have the latest on the current crisis between UN inspectors and Baghdad.
And the mysteries of medicine. One California hospital is trying to make them a little less confusing for patients.
Tonight on CNN World Report, theft, assault, and murders. A post-communist Poland grapples with a growing crime rate. Why the bad guys are winning in Warsaw. And it may be psychedelic, but Israel is putting some troubled children in touch. Illuminating therapy for disabled children. Then a chance to strut their stuff and blow their own horn. A different side to the art of Swiss yodeling on CNN World Report, midnight Eastern tonight.
We've just completed a videotape about people who've had money troubles, how they avoided bankruptcy and found a solution to debt problems. It could be valuable to you if you have financial problems. See if you're really in trouble. Learn your options. Find solutions. But you have to take the first step. Send for your free tape titled Debt Problems. We can help. Call now. Dial 232-8139 and ask for your free videotape titled Debt Problems. This community service sponsored by Consumer Credit Counseling Service.
Every weekend you're out there getting it done. Trimming, beating, mowing, and your yard looks gorgeous until... But there's an easy way to show off your hard work. Brinkman Landscape Lighting. And only Brinkman is this easy to install. So get out there.